Welcome to the deep dive. We explore your source material, find the key takeaways, and sometimes, well, we stumble into some pretty bizarre intersections of knowledge.
Definitely.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something quite practical, actually. English language learning materials.
That's right. Specifically, we're looking at graded readers.
Graded readers. Okay.
Yeah, these are really essential tools if you're learning English as a second language. They're basically books, often fiction, that are either specially written or adapted for learners.
And the goal isn't intense grammar study, right? It's more about just reading.
Exactly. It's what we call extensive reading. The idea is to
Okay.
build fluency, get comfortable with the language, and hopefully, enjoy it, not just drill grammar points.
Okay, and these aren't just random books. They're very structured.
Oh, incredibly structured. They fit into the CEFR framework. That's the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages.
Right.
And they're strictly controlled by level and, importantly, by vocabulary count.
Vocabulary count. How does that work?
Well, the collection we're looking at today is rated A2 plus NAT. That's sort of lower intermediate.
Okay.
For a book at this level, which might be, say, 11,000 to 14,000 words long in total,
Uh-huh.
the writer can only use around 1,200 unique root words.
Wait, only 1,200 word for the entire book?
1,200 head words, yeah. These are the core vocabulary items. You can have
Yeah.
variations like walk, walks, walking, but it all stems from that basic list.
That sounds incredibly restrictive. How do you even tell a story?
It is restrictive. The goal is accessibility, lots of repetition, so the words stick. You build the narrative using just the most common fundamental English words.
So, okay, you've got this, like, intense academic structure, technical limits, 1,200 words,
Yeah.
designed to teach English efficiently.
Yep.
And yet, the specific book we found, this A2 plus graded reader, it's a collection of ghost stories.
By M.R. James, yes. The Locked Room and other horror stories.
Horror stories for intermediate language learners. That seems
Right.
unexpected.
It's definitely a paradox, isn't it? You have this very disciplined language learning system meeting, well, pretty visceral supernatural horror. That's what we need to unpack.
Absolutely. So who was this M.R. James? Just some pulp horror writer?
Oh, not at all. That's what makes it so fascinating. Montague Rhodes James, born 1862, he wasn't primarily a fiction writer. He was a towering academic figure.
Really?
Yeah, a highly respected scholar of medieval studies. We're talking about someone who held two of the most prestigious posts you could imagine in English academia.
Which were?
He was provost of King's College, Cambridge, from 1905 to 1918, and then provost of Eton College from 1918 until he died in 1936.
Provost of King's and Eton. Wow, so basically shaping the minds of the British elite for decades.
Absolutely, a pillar of the establishment.
So how does a guy like that end up writing ghost stories?
Well, it was sort of a hobby, a tradition, really. Every Christmas, starting back in the 1890s, he'd read a new ghost story. And he'd read it aloud to his friends and colleagues at King's College, like gathered around the fireplace. It was purely for their entertainment, a private, chilling little ritual.
Okay, a Christmas ghost story tradition. I can see the appeal, but still, the content. We're talking supernatural horror, murder, revenge, black magic,
Mhm.
bizarre creatures. Why this stuff for language learners?
Yeah, you'd think maybe a nice detective story or something contemporary.
Exactly. Why saddle intermediate learners with, potentially archaic language and these
Yeah.
very specific, kind of old-fashioned horror tropes? Isn't that just making it harder?
That's a really good question. And I think the answer lies in how James creates horror. It's about the linguistic structure.
Okay.
Think about someone like, say, Edgar Allan Poe. His horror is often very psychological, right?
Oh, yeah.
It relies on complex emotions, internal monologues, ambiguity, really elaborate description.
Which needs complex vocabulary, abstract words.
Precisely. Words that go way beyond that 1,200 headword limit. James is different. His horror often comes from very concrete, objective descriptions,
Like what?
like a specific object, a particular creature, a physical action. He describes things happening, a hole in someone's chest, clothes that walk by themselves, a specific type of knife, a spider.
Ah, so simple nouns and verbs doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. He builds this atmosphere of dread using scholarly details, dates, places, maybe a Latin quote.
Right, setting the scene.
But the actual scary bits, they're often described using very simple, concrete language, visually simple things you can easily picture.
And that translates well even with limited vocabulary.
It seems so, yes. Yeah. The horror is inherently accessible because it relies on things you can point to, not complex inner states. It's efficient, objective description.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Ground the weirdness in solid facts and describe the monsters simply. So let's look at some examples. What horror nuggets made the cut for the A2 plus crowd?
Right. Well, a classic one is the ash tree. This really shows James using kind of the natural world for horror.
The ash tree.
So the setup is 1690, Castringham Hall. A woman, Mrs. Mothersole, is accused of witchcraft. Apparently, people saw her climbing the big old ash tree right outside Sir Matthew Fell's bedroom window, especially during the full moon, using some kind of strange knife.
Okay, classic witch trial setup.
She's hanged, but apparently she vows revenge.
Mm.
Soon after, Sir Matthew Fell is found dead in his bed. The description is just. He turned completely black.
Ugh. Okay.
Then, fast forward about 40 years, his grandson, Sir Richard Fell, inherits the place. And guess what?
Oh no, same bed.
Same bed, same cause of death, found totally black. And before he died, he'd been getting really spooked, talking about seeing strange animals near that ash tree, fast-moving things,
Yeah.
with, quote, more than 4 legs.
More than 4 legs. Okay, that's unsettling. Spiders.
Well, wait for the climax. The next owner decides this tree is bad news, orders it cut down and burned.
Good call.
As the trunk burns, it's hollow. Inside, these enormous spider-like creatures start running out.
Enormous out.
The text says, the size of a man's head, covered in gray hair.
Whoa, hold on. Head-sized spiders running out of a burning tree. And this is in an A2 plus reader.
Yep. And inside the burnt-out hollow, they find the bones of a woman. Estimated time of death. Around 1690. Presumably Mrs. Mothersole.
Okay, that is genuinely horrifying man-sized spider things. You're teaching language learners the words for giant arachnids before they've mastered, I don't know, ordering coffee?
Well, the imagery certainly sticks with you, doesn't it? It's memorable. Shock value, maybe.
I'll say. The sheer weirdness has to make an impression. Okay, so giant spiders from witches. What else? You mentioned objects.
Yeah, James was great at making everyday things terrifying. Look at the curtains.
The curtains. Sounds harmless enough.
You'd think. So a guy, Mr. Denton, he's looking for curtains, but instead buys an old diary from the early 1700s, the Diary of Mr. Pointer, 1710.
Okay.
Inside, he finds this odd drawing. He quite likes it, thinks it would make a good pattern for, well, his new curtains.
Yeah.
So he gets them made.
Let me guess. Bad idea.
Very bad idea. He eventually finds out where that pattern in the diary came from. It was drawn from life. It was the actual long, curling black hair of a dead student, Sir Everard Charlotte. His body apparently vanished back in 1707, leaving behind only a pile of hair.
Ugh. So his curtains are decorated with dead guy's hair pattern.
Essentially, yes. And then, of course, it gets worse.
Naturally.
Denton wakes up one night feeling something in the room. He describes it as a thing almost human, but covered in hair. And has no eyes, no nose, no mouth.
Oh, come on.
And this hairy, featureless thing is tearing at his shirt.
Right, okay. Haunted curtains made of ghost hair. Definitely makes a case for, like, minimalist decor, plain white blinds, maybe.
Definitely. So you have haunted nature, haunted objects.
What about rituals? You mentioned black magic?
Ah, yes. For that, the standout is probably Lost Hearts. This one really highlights that simple, concrete horror we talked about.
Lost Hearts, okay.
It involves this scholarly old gentleman, Mr. Abney. Seems up quite kindly, takes in his young orphan cousin, Stephen Elliott.
Seems nice, but I have a bad feeling.
You should. Mr. Abney is secretly trying to achieve immortality, maybe, or control the world through black magic.
Of course he is.
And the ritual requires him to take the hearts, literally the physical hearts, of 3 young people before their 21st birthday.
Oh, that's dark. Really dark.
He's already sacrificed 2 kids over the years.
Yeah.
A girl named Phoebe Stanley back in 1791, a boy, Giovanni Pelli, in 1805.
And now it's 1812.
And young Stephen is his next target. Stephen starts seeing things, these terrifying children outside his window at night.
The ghosts of the victims.
Seems like it. And the description is classic James. Simple, chilling. One is a boy with untidy hair and a large black hole in his chest, where his heart should be.
Just a hole. Wow, that's incredibly direct. No need for fancy metaphors there.
None at all. And then the ghosts decide they've had enough. They basically turn the tables on Mr. Abney.
Ow.
He's found dead in his study, sitting in his chair. And he has a large hole torn in his chest. His heart is gone.
The ghosts got their revenge.
Apparently. And here's another concrete detail. The long, curved knife he presumably used on the children. It's lying on the table next to him, but it's described as being completely clean.
Clean knife. Messy death. Chilling.
It really is. And again, notice the scholarly details, the specific dates, a ritualistic element that give it a kind of pseudo-historical weight.
Right. It feels documented.
But the actual horror,
Mm.
the hole in the chest, the clean knife, super simple, starkly physical descriptions. You don't need advanced English to get that.
Yeah, I can see why that works for learners. It's universally understandable horror. What about The Locked Room? That's the title story.
Right, the locked room. This one
Yeah.
features maybe one of his weirdest ghosts.
Hell weirder than a hairy curtain monster.
Possibly. So a student named Thompson is staying in this old boarding house in Suffolk.
Mhm.
There's one room that's always kept locked.
Of course there is. And he breaks in.
He feels compelled to, yes.
Yeah.
Curiosity gets the better of him. Inside, he first sees something unsettling, like a figure covered by a sheet on the floor. But then, later, he sees. Well, he sees a pile of old clothes on the floor. Just clothes.
That doesn't sound too scary.
Until the pile of clothes starts moving. It sort of gathers itself up and starts walking towards him.
Walking clothes. Seriously.
Walking clothes, complete with an old knife sticking out of the jacket and dried bloodstains on it.
Okay, walking, blood-stained, knife-impaled clothes are definitely weird. What's the backstory there?
He finds out later it's supposed to be the ghost of a rich gentleman who was murdered in that room ages ago,
Oh.
stabbed and robbed. His body was found near this large white stone outside the village.
Uh-huh.
Apparently the stone brought bad luck for fishing, so the villagers moved it.
Yeah.
And the owners of the house, they keep the room locked so the ghost can, sleep undisturbed.
So the ghost is literally just his old clothes wandering around.
Seems to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, a very strange, very physical manifestation of a ghost. Not ethereal at all.
It's concrete. All right. A walking pile of laundry. So putting all these together, the spiders, the hair, the missing hearts, the walking clothes, what's the common thread here, apart from just being really bizarre?
Well, I think you see clear themes emerging. There's often an ancient curse or a past crime, right? The past violently disrupting the present.
Yeah, the witch's curse, the old murders.
And then there's James's own background seeping in. The scholarly details, the dates, the locations, the Latin quotes he sometimes uses, the old diaries. They lend this air of authenticity. They make the supernatural stuff feel grounded, almost historical, even when it's completely fantastical.
It makes the horror feel plausible in a weird way, documented horror,
Yeah.
even when it's simplified down to 1,200 words.
Exactly. It feels unnervingly real.
So for the language learner reading this, what are they actually getting out of it, besides nightmares about spiders and curtains?
Well, on a practical level, they are reinforcing that core vocabulary in a really memorable context. You're not likely to forget the word spider after reading the ash tree in simplified English. But beyond that, I think it gives them a glimpse into this, well, peculiar corner of English literature and culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blend of history, scholarship, and just pure visceral terror.
And it works as a learning tool precisely because the stories are so weirdly compelling. They grab your attention, even with simple language. You're essentially learning the basic words needed to describe a nightmare efficiently.
Pretty much, yeah. Which brings us to a kind of final, maybe provocative thought.
Okay.
You have this incredibly distinguished academic, the provost of King's and Eton, a man who loved ancient manuscripts, the Bible, serious scholarship.
Right.
And he spends his spare time crafting these incredibly vivid, often quite gruesome horror stories. Stories so effective, so primal in their scares, that they end up being simplified and used to teach English around the world.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it's quite strange, isn't it?
It makes you wonder, what does it say about us? About human nature, maybe? Or just about the power of a really well-told scary story? That these specific tales, spiders, haunted hair, stolen hearts, that they resonate so much they cross cultures, languages, and even reading levels.
Maybe the things that truly scare us are pretty universal.
Perhaps.
Eh.
It suggests that sometimes maybe the simplest, most direct language is the most powerful way to communicate profound feelings, even feelings like absolute terror.
All you need is a good story. And maybe 1,200 carefully chosen words. Enough to give anyone pause.
Definitely enough.
Well, that's certainly given me pause. Thanks for joining us for this rather unsettling deep dive.